There are many ways in which human beings directly impact the environment, like industrial pollution and unsustainable exploitation of resources. There's another thing we do that's harmful to the environment, and we're often less aware of it. To put it simply, we move things. We transport species from their native environment to other environments where other species are not adequately adapted to coexist with them. Sometimes this is done purposefully, sometimes this happens incidentally. The threat of invasive species doesn't get a lot of attention, but it's a huge threat to biodiversity. It is important to preserve native habitats because they provide an area with geographic and ecological identity. This does translate to economic impact. When you have aquatic invasives, it reduces desirability of both commercial and recreational fishing. A damaged ecosystem can result in several negative economic effects. Tourism is often affected. Insects that damage trees can reduce forestry production. Both invasive plants and insects can decimate agriculture. The cost of repairing and preventing damage from these species is estimated to be in the billions. Additionally, some invasives can augment the threat of disease. Thinking long-term, invasives are considered to be an impediment to biodiversity. Let's look at how invasives are problematic to an ecosystem. They monopolize the resources available, such as food, water, shelter, or light. This makes it difficult for others to survive. When we talk about invasive species, what we really mean is that it's an incredibly successful species. It is adapted in such a way that it can survive and reproduce in a variety of conditions beyond the ones that it is native to. Not all non-native plants and animals are bad. On rare occasions, they're beneficial, like honeybees or apples. Many have little or no discernible environmental impact. When we're talking about invasive species, what we mean is that they have been demonstrated to be harmful to the survival of other kinds of life. There are many invasive plant and animal species in Ohio, so I'll name a few examples and the impact they have on the environment. The list of invasive plants currently in Ohio is long. I'll name a couple of the most prominent. Purple loosestrife is ubiquitous and colorful, and it's a huge threat to wetland habitats. It takes habitat away from cattail. Cattails are important habitat for many types of animal that live in wetlands, like ducks and frogs. Some others are Japanese knotweed and Japanese honeysuckle. These share the same traits as most harmful plants. They spread rapidly, and they shade out other plants, meaning other smaller plants are not able to get light or water, and hence do not survive. Garlic mustard is another one. It interferes with wildflower growth and tree growth in the forest, disrupting the root systems for those types of plants. Zebra mussels spread and reproduce at an alarming rate. They cause damage to water intake facilities, power plants, and are an obstacle to both recreational and commercial boating and shipping. This is a huge problem now in the Great Lakes, which have been subject to many invasions, like the parasitic sea lampreys and spiny water fleas, which consume other zooplankton, but are themselves inedible to many fish. Feral hogs have been spreading all over the country because they escape from ranches or are released for hunting. They damage crops, disrupt soil and root systems through digging activity, and pollute water sources. The emerald ash borer is a type of beetle whose larva destroys ash trees. It's difficult to ascertain a total cost in terms of assessing the price of controlling invasive species, but here are a few examples of specific expenditures. Control of sea lampreys in the Great Lakes, $15.9 million. Control of the emerald ash borer, $27 million has been spent there. And removal and replacement of trees that are infected with emerald ash borer larvae is projected to cost $1 billion or more. I'm talking about money because that's what spurs interest among many people. But the real issue is environmental stability. And those issues are actually inseparable. Every year, native ecosystems literally lose ground to invasives. The important initial step to alleviate this problem is awareness. Educate yourself and be knowledgeable of what is living on the property that you're responsible for. Discuss the subject with friends and neighbors. If you think someone is unaware of or ambivalent about these issues, try to start a conversation about it. If we're collectively making an effort to reduce or eliminate invasive species, we'll be much closer to restoring some of these native habitats. It's not possible for one single action or effort to remove all invasives. Success can only be the result of coordinated, smaller efforts. Success stories where an invasive species has been successfully eradicated from an area are rare, but they do happen. Water chestnuts were eliminated from Chesapeake Bay. In Hawaii, there are several species that were removed as a result of control programs. By addressing the issue on a local level, we can eventually achieve success on a wider scale. People who work in this field approach the subject with cautious optimism. Kathy Smith is a forestry program director for Ohio State University Extension and the leader of its Ohio Woodland Stewards program. And she was quoted in a 2013 press release as saying, "It seems that no matter what the area, forest, wetland, pond, prairie, city park, or backyard, invasive species are everywhere. Odds are that no matter where you are in Ohio, you can make a difference when it comes to detecting, managing, and eradicating invasive species." This press release is about the Great Lakes Early Detection Network, which is a website and app developed at OSU. The data reported using this app is in turn reported to EDMAPs, or Early Detection and Distribution Mapping Systems. If you go to the EDMAPs website, you can track in real time the appearance and spread of invasives throughout the U.S. This information is useful to organizations that respond to invasive threats and tells them where to coordinate their efforts. This is an example of how individual action does make a difference. We take pride in the time and effort that we invest tending to our gardens and landscaping our properties. When you plant native species and remove invasives, you are giving your property an asset. A native ecosystem will thrive and it will have balance. There will be sufficient resources to support a variety of life from the bottom of the food chain to the top. We can make this happen by being aware and being proactive. Every human community impacts the ecosystem it is settled upon. We can minimize the harmfulness of this impact by taking a few basic steps toward habitat restoration with just a few precautions. Be vigilant about invasive plants. Don't buy them, don't plant them, and if they're on your property, remove them. If you're boating or fishing while visiting an aquatic habitat, wash all of your equipment before and after. Don't use felt sole waders, which transmit an algae known as rock snot. When camping, don't bring firewood from outside of the region where you are camping. Do not release unwanted pets or animals into a non-native environment. Participate in early detection programs. Support legislation that restricts practices that contribute to the spread of invasive plants or animals. The goal of stopping the spread of invasive species is to maintain the diversity of native ecosystems. You can be part of this effort to ensure that future generations have the same opportunity to know, enjoy, and learn about the same plants and animals that you have enjoyed in your lifetime.